How do we know when giving or loaning money is actually helping and is a blessing versus creating problems? Well, the answer usually isn't black and white. So let's jump into the two questions that I like to use to help my clients think through their different family money scenarios. The most common issue I see is the helper ends up in retirement and they're no longer able to continue helping the person that they were. And now they're so inadequately prepared that they have turned around and become a burden themselves to somebody else who now has to help them. This is not the situation you want to find yourself in. If you're helping someone else out financially, you need to have done the math to make sure that you are not giving so much that it causes problems to your own long-term vision. I used to ask the question if you're helping them causes you to sacrifice your long-term vision, but I found that question was a little bit misleading because even if they're going to pay you back, there's always some sort of sacrifice involved. That's why I've changed it to how is this in alignment with your short and long-term vision? And if you find that your help is actually causing a hindrance to these other longer term parts of your vision, well, then it's time to look at making some adjustments to the way that you're helping. So the first question is about our own capacity to give help. The second question is about their capacity to receive help. And this one, honestly, is very, very tough. There's a very, very fine line between helping someone and enabling them. And oftentimes when it comes to someone that you love, this line can get really blurry and hard to tell. So I thought I'd share a couple of helpful definitions that I found online when doing some research to prep for this video. Helping supports positive change, while enabling prevents someone from facing the consequences of their actions. I also found a line from Dave Ramsey that I really liked who said, real help causes the other person to be better as a result of your help. Another way I often frame this with a client is by using the word blessing rather than help. When you are blessing someone versus enabling them, blessing implies that you are doing something that will help them in the short term and in the long term. It's for their ultimate good. Whereas enabling implies that it might help that person in the short term and it looks initially like it's helping, but actually what you're doing is damaging them in the long run. One of the most common expenses that I see in parents' budgets is some sort of help with the rent for their son or daughter. You can't look at the action of helping with rent in a vacuum to determine whether it's help or enabling. You've got to look at the realistic impact on the person that you're giving this help to and see what this does for them in the long term. I've got a few more questions that I want to share with you to help you think through some of the nuances as it relates to helping versus enabling. What is the trajectory of the person that I'm trying to help? Are they using this help as an opportunity to build good habits and new skills? Or are they using this as an opportunity to avoid the responsibilities of adulthood? Will this help make it more or less likely that this person will implement healthy changes and experience growth in their life? How much of this help is something that they truly need versus just something that I need because I need to feel needed? And one that I think is the most practical to think through is what happens when this help is removed. I like to think about it like teaching a kid how to ride a bike with training wheels. First, you put them on the bike and you've got the training wheels on and they're pedaling on their own, and the training wheels help them stabilize. Eventually, you remove the training wheels, but you place your hand there. And so now your hand is sort of steadying them as they learn to ride and balance on their own. Eventually, slowly, you start to remove your hand, and maybe they're wobbling a little bit, but they've used that skill set that they learned while your hand was there to eventually pedal away and be totally launched and be riding the bike on their own for real. Now, if we take that idea and we apply it to the rent example from earlier, we can ask the question, what happens if I stop subsidizing rent for my kid? Do they use the skills that they learned and the foundation that they built as a jumping off point? And yeah, maybe they wobble a little bit at first, the budget's a little bit tighter now, but they're able to ultimately get launched out into the world and they're able to use the help that you gave them to have built that foundation. Or do they totally flounder? Do they totally fall? Because they were using your help, your support, not as an opportunity to learn how to ride the bike, but as a way to coast. Failure is an important part of learning. If we're not willing to let those that we love experience bits of failure, then we're not willing to let them learn and grow into the person that God has made them to be. If you've ever been snow skiing and you've seen 3, 4, 5-year-olds zipping around you on the slopes, then you'll know exactly what I mean when I say, when you learn how to ski at 5 years old, it's awesome because when you fall, you just quite literally don't have that far to fall. You're so short, you're so tiny that you take a fall and you kind of bounce right back up. But if you learn to ski later in life, in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, well, when you fall, those falls are a lot harder. As a parent, when you let your kids experience some financial falls early on, they'll be able to recover relatively quickly, just like the 5-year-olds on the ski slopes. But if you let them get a little older without experiencing and learning from these falls, well, then the stakes of them falling become huge. They may even have kids of their own, and so now letting them fall means not just watching them get hurt, but also watching that hurt your grandkids. These falls now have a far-reaching impact. Things can get really ugly in situations like this, and oftentimes the helper finds themselves in a cycle of perpetual enabling because they're so nervous about what might happen if they remove their support. We don't want you to get into this situation, but if you find yourself here, it might be time to start trying to come up with some ways that you can let your adult child or whoever it is you're helping start to experience some more controlled falls so that they can start to learn and grow on their own. Maybe you don't remove your help all at once, but you start clearly communicating some expectations so that this person can use your help well. Maybe you put a timeline on your help and you gradually start to cut back on the amount of help that you're giving them over the course of 6, 12, or 18 months. One thing is for sure though, some serious thought needs to go into how to proceed from here so that this help that you've been giving them doesn't end up causing your loved one to crash and burn in a way that is even worse than if you had never helped them in the first place. If you can confidently answer yes to question number 1, that your help does align with your long-term and short-term vision, and that yes, number 2, your help is actually help and is not enabling them, then amazing. What a cool opportunity for you to be a blessing. And I pray that this is the situation you find yourself in. If you'd like more help crafting your vision, check out this video right here. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.